Hey Lee, what are you doing?
Trying to see what's wrong with this clap piece of junk.
Alright, so we just pulled this raggedy thing here into the shop, and we got batteries that were sitting in the floor when it was brought to me that say do not touch on them. This is not even a 65 series, so you can see what we even had to do with the batteries here. This thing looks like it got run over by a truck right there. Got the charger on this one. I think this one's actually pretty hot because when we hooked it up, the vacuum pump significantly picked up on running. So we got no air intake on it at all. Like I said, batteries on the floor. Coolant looks not like coolant with junk all in it. Didn't even check the oil yet. Let's check the oil before we try to crank it. We're taking a guess real quick on what it is. Lee said high pressure oil pump, but it's 05. I say it's not high pressure oil pump. I'm gonna say high pressure oil leak. That's what I'm gonna say. Standpipes, dummy plugs, something, upper injector seal. We're gonna find out here in just a second though. See what happens. They said the story is we put a turbo on it and now it won't run. They thought the turbo was what was wrong with it and put it on and it won't run now. These are the projects that I don't like taking on. Look how out of line the bed is. Missing the tailgate. Interior is not terrible. But the best part is, you get sun in your eyes, flip this sweet thing down right here. Look at that. Parts in the seat, it's always a good sign. Radio falling out of the dash, that's also another positive. So pulling the dipstick, look at that yumminess with like trash on it. That is some nasty oil. We're gonna see if the level's even right for turning this thing over. We got a plethora of codes here. One I just noticed, never seen this one before, VIN mismatch. So Lee's gonna pull up our high pressure oil pump, our IPR ICP, FICM main and FICM sink, because you gotta have all those to start, and we're gonna see what happens when we crank it over. All right, go for it. Not making any high pressure oil. IPR's maxed out. We got sink, we got voltage. All right, so we know we have a high pressure oil leak. What I didn't show you on camera a minute ago while we were waiting for the batteries to juice up and stuff some more, I did an injector buzz on it. Cylinder 6 I got nothing out of, so we got a dead injector on cylinder 6. I did have a contribution code that initially pulled up before I even started trying to crank on the truck. So that was a code that was already stored in here for cylinder 6. We had, I don't remember what they were, 3 or 4 glow plug codes. That VIN number mismatch, which I've never seen that one before, so I don't know what's going on with that. But we do have FICM power and we have sync, so we don't have an issue with firing the injectors. We have a high pressure oil leak is what we have going on. I did unplug the ICP sensor just a second ago, spun it over again, which that sets the computer in a default mode for reading, just to make sure we didn't have a biased ICP sensor. So that took that out of the loop, so that's not what's going on. So now, what I'm gonna do first, this does have a factory oil cap on it, but I am gonna pull it and see if the correct filter's in it, because if the wrong filter's in there, it will keep it from building oil pressure, because the low pressure pump can't even supply the high pressure pump with the oil it needs. So we'll do that first, and then if that looks right, we're gonna hook our air tester up and we're gonna air test the whole system and see what's the story with that is. I feel like we're just putting lipstick on a pig with this truck, because it's got a whole lot of other crap going on. I guarantee it needs an oil cooler with that mess that's in the degas bottle here. And as dirty as that oil is, I guarantee it probably needs a set of injectors after that crap running through it also. But whatever, doing what the customer wants. So let me, we'll probably pick up on this tomorrow. It's later today. I just want to get this in the shop and get started with it. Let these batteries trickle charge overnight. We'll have more to work with tomorrow, so we'll catch up then. All right, so we did our high pressure oil test with no results. Let me show you. I mean, you don't hear nothing. Took the fill cap off, crankcase breather is off, of course, because the FICM's out and the air intake and all that's out. Don't hear anything. So I was like, well, if there's not a high pressure oil leak and it's not building high pressure oil, is only one other thing it could be. I did unplug the ICP sensor too, like I mentioned before, which proved we didn't have a biased ICP sensor. So I pulled the low pressure oil pump relief valve out the bottom. It wasn't stuck. Stuck a magnet up in there and didn't get any metal out, didn't get any pieces that looked like a roller out of a lifter, nothing like that. Put that back in, pulled the oil filter cap Brian hopped inside. We cranked it over. It filled the bowl up within, I don't know, 2-3 seconds of cranking. So that was fine while you hold the drain back valve down. So it's making low pressure oil. But let me show you what the filter look like that come out of this thing. So here's the filter that come out of it. Tell me if you don't see something wrong with that. And then here's the next thing that's wrong with it. Where's it at? Right there, STP. Don't put that garbage in your truck. So this is an OEM one that I just took out of this clean running truck that somebody actually takes care of. So you can see the difference in the height. Now why this one is smashed or whatever, I don't know, but that's keeping that drain. That's about how much you push the drain back valve down. So it's not pushing it down for it to build any low pressure oil. So we're gonna throw a filter in it, and I bet it's gonna crank up now that I took the time to pull the daggum fickum off and check the high pressure oil system. All right, so we've changed the oil. We're filling with our Rotella 1540. We went on and put a new filter in it. I let this thing drain overnight to get every bit of that nasty oil out of it. Put our IPR in with the new IPR screen on it. The fickum is plugged in, just sitting over there, because I want to make sure this runs right before we get all crazy with it and see if we can't diagnose number 6 injector a little bit better with it running. The tube that goes from the radiator to the degas bottle is snapped off right there, so it's going to need a radiator. I told him, I said, hey, if I get it cranked up and it's running right, you may go and do a radiator. He said yes. I'm going to diagnose the injector and see what way we're going to go with that. I'm willing to bet this thing needs an oil cooler. It definitely, at the very bare minimum, needs a coolant flush also. So let me finish filling this up with oil, and we're going to crank this thing up here at run. All right, we got all our stuff pulled up here. We're going to look to make the low pressure oil up there in the corner again and see what happens. Well, I was an idiot. I forgot that I had the ICP unplugged when we were diagnosing it before, so that's why it was showing that it was building what it was. So really, it's probably not, because we pressure tested the system and pushed so much air through it, it's having to refill everything, and these batteries aren't very hot for pumping that pump like it ought to be running. So it's been sitting here for a minute. Let's try it again. Oh, that's sad. Come on. As I'm sitting here letting these batteries charge, look at the corner of that battery. That thing is smashed. Something smashed it down. Who knows if it's got a messed up cell in it or not. Whatever. Typical with the rest of the truck, I guess. All right, I'll let the batteries charge for a good while this time. Let's see what she does now. Pull some code, see what she's got. So we got a injector 6 contribution. Let's turn 6 off, see if it makes any difference. 6 is doing absolutely nothing. For example, we can turn 5 off. Significantly changes the idle. So 6 is doing nothing, so let's go out there and wiggle that plug on the injector, see if it's a short maybe in the harness or something. Also, we have turbo supercharger boost, pressure not detected. Let's go out there and look at both of these, see if we can figure out what that's about. So there's our turbo boost problem. You can see that broke off in the hose. Broke off right there at the intake. Let's check our number 6 injector. Nothing's changing, wiggling around on the plug or the harness. So we got our map sensor hooked up to the intake. It's broke off, obviously, like I showed you. So we got to fix that. We have a down injector, so that needs fixing. Coolant is disgusting. This needs a flush at minimum. I'm willing to bet that the oil cooler stopped up. And we have our hose that's broke off of the radiator here, so it needs a radiator. So I'm gonna call him, give him the whole rundown of everything, the possibilities, all that kind of stuff. The next thing is y'all are probably all thinking the same thing I'm thinking with the way this degas bottle looks. So I won't be surprised if this needs head gasket. It is not studded. I didn't even pay attention to whether it's EGR deleted or not. But anyways, you could just keep throwing parts all day long at this before you get it right. And the best thing to do would be tackle it all at one time. So check out this coolant. Brian said, hey, look at this. Yeah, is it oil in it?
Kind of seems like it.
I can't tell if it's just rust or oil.
It looks like rust.
It doesn't feel oily. That looks real nice. That's great for the oil cooler. So that's not even coolant, it's just straight water. Has no smell to it, no oiliness to it at all. So that's great for it also. So I'm doing a fuel system on this 6.7 today, or starting on it at least. And Brian's getting his feet wet on a 6.0. I said, hey, I want you to put this injector in there today. I said, I'll do it step by step with you. I said, because he said, I want to learn it. He said, I want to be a 6.0 guy. So anyways, he's getting after that, and we'll catch up after he throws an injector and this radiator in it and show you the finished product. So Brian has put his first 6.0 injector in, and he said he's just madly in love with 6.0s now. I think he's having a little bit of fun, but he won't admit it. So he's putting the high pressure oil around on. He knows what to do now. All you gotta do is tell him once. He's that good, folks. And I'm gonna keep working on this 6.7, and I'll catch up with y'all on this one when we crank it up. We're gonna do a lot of flushing after seeing what that degas bottle looked like too. All right, we're all back together. We're after hours now. Brian went home. We had a hell of a storm pass through here. Poured down rain, we lost power for about an hour, so I just now got it back together. New radiator in. I fixed the map hose. I actually had a brass barb fitting that screwed right into the intake. I couldn't believe that. So got that fixed. I got some water hose water running in it. I got the drain pulled on the radiator. I cleaned the degas bottle outside of the truck. With the new radiator now, we're gonna flush a bunch of garden hose water through it, let it run a little bit, fill it up with distilled water, go drive it a little bit, drain that, and then do a fill. And then we're gonna hope, wish, and pray that oil cooler is okay. If not, I mean, it is what it is. We'll just have to do it then. So let me get in here and try to crank it, and we'll see what happens. So I don't have the tough book hooked up or nothing right now. We know everything that's going on with the truck anyways. Shouldn't be too long of a start because we only opened up one side of the rails. So let's see what happens. Oil pressure built pretty fast. Oh, I can tell that's a hell of a lot smoother already. Whole truck ain't shaking. You can tell the turbo actually responds now too. Let's let this thing run with some garden hose water going through it and flush this out. So we took her on a test drive, got about a mile down the road, started losing power. I turned around and came back. Had a little bit of trouble pulling up the driveway here. It seems to be a fuel-related issue. Brian conveniently left my scanner tool in another customer's truck who had just picked it up about an hour before I finished this up. So I have no way to scan it and look at what's going on with it, but it feels and sounds like it's a fuel issue, either stopped up fuel filters or the pump's getting weak, which I did notice earlier on. I didn't really hear the pump running with key on, so maybe it's a weak pump down the road, the lift pump. So anyways, we'll see. We'll pick up on this the next day that I'm here in the shop, and we'll see what's going on with it with the scan tool. Other than that, it idled smooth, ribbed up fine. Turbo's actually responding now with the map sensor actually getting a reading now that it's hooked up to the intake. So anyways, I think we got the majority of everything fixed right. We need to check those oil cooler temps when we are able to drive it correctly and go put it through its paces. But first we got to figure out why it's down on power. And I don't know, EGR valve, fuel problem, we'll see. I'll pick up with y'all the next time we're on it. All right, we're back on the truck here today because I got my scan tool back since Brian left it in somebody's truck. Drove the truck, it started getting warm quick. I did notice I never heard or felt the fan ever kick in. Not that you really feel it that much, but if you're used to kind of feeling for it, you can tell when the fan's on. So the cooling fan is not on. I got my shop fan right up against the grill right now. So I'm okay with the coolant temps. That's doing fine. So I don't think the thermostat is stuck, but I don't think the fan's doing its job. And look at those oil cooler temps. And that's sitting here. I got it on high idle, whatever, 1200 RPM. And we're, what is that? Almost 23 degrees apart. So, you know, if you put a trailer behind this thing or go put it through its paces, it's gonna get hot. So I gotta make a phone call, see where he wants to go with this. Still has a EGR valve, or sorry, EGR cooler on it. I checked the EGR valve duty cycle to make sure that was fine, and that's doing its job. VGT is working fine on the turbo because they had put a turbo on it. So basically we got a stopped up oil cooler. Cooling system that's still nasty because I just put straight water in it just to drive it for a little bit to flush it out. And because I want to see how the thermostat was doing too. So anyways, I have a feeling he's not going to want to dump a whole lot of more money into this, and I don't know if the truck's worth it, so we'll see. All right, we got the oil cooler out. Intake is out. I've already pressure washed. Oil cooler's over there on the bench getting ready to get replaced. Pressure washed the cover and everything already. Pressure washed the intake, got all the funk off of it. So now we are ready to replace our oil cooler. We're gonna, yeah, you know what we're doing with that. So anyways, let me get this oil cooler put in. We'll flip it over here in just a second. I'm gonna take a wild guess and say this one is actually a Motorcraft one because it wasn't ruptured. It was just stopped up, and it's probably the fault of lack of oil changes, running the wrong coolant, neglect basically. So let's get this apart. Let's see what oil cooler's in there. All right, I'm not gonna get into great detail doing this. I have a very detailed oil cooler replacement video if you wanna go check that out. We're just gonna pull this apart real quick and see what we got. This is a USA made. This is American made. Some Motorcraft or International, one or the other. Good for whoever did it last. All right, oil cooler is out. I'm gonna go take this and power wash it again, get it all cleaned up so we have a nice clean reassembly with this. It's just not fun doing it when it's covered in oil and all the mess right here. So let me go clean this up. All right, we have our new Ford OEM oil cooler in, all assembled. This is ready to go back in the truck now. We have our oil well right there, all cleaned up with our new screen, and also cleaned up all around it. Our gasket surface area is good to go. So now we're gonna throw this in. I'm gonna torque it down. We'll get the intake back in. We got all that ready to go, as you can see there. And so then we'll have this done. Once I assemble this, we'll change out the HFCM on the frame rail. And then I gotta change the fan clutch out, and this should be good to go. It should have all of our problems fixed. Truck should be running great. Only other thing I've noticed is we're missing our vacuum pod over here. Probably because there's no inner fender well on this truck to hold it in here. So I had this all together, and I was getting ready to video y'all saying, hey, it's all together. We gotta do the fan clutch and do the HFCM on the frame rail, and we'll be done with this thing. It'll be good to go. But as I was picking up my tools, and I was picking up all my nice little paper towel pieces that I usually use a couple times before I throw them away, that I plug the intake holes up with, I've been saving these plastic caps here that go on the end of the hoses when I do the bulletproof diesel external oil cooler, because these are perfect to stick right down in the intake holes, and you can reuse these a bunch of times. Well, they've gotten greasy just like this one in black and blended right in. I had this whole thing together with 3 of these in the passenger side front intake holes there. And I should have noticed it because I had to torque these, instead of doing just 2 passes normally on the intake, 2 to 3 passes, and it's all right. I kept noticing these kept torquing down a little bit more, and I should have caught it then, but I didn't. I was just thinking it was something odd with it, whatever intake was warped a little bit or something maybe. And Anyway, started picking up all those paper towel pieces. I said, wait a minute, I had a couple of those plastic things stuck in there. Well, they were still in there. So I got to take everything back off to the point of where I could raise the intake up and stick my hand underneath there and pull them out. So now I'm to the point of putting it back together again, lining my gaskets back up, retorquing the intake, put the fickum and the oil filter housing and all that stuff back on. So I like doing stuff twice. It's always fun. All right, we are all back together other than charge air cooler pipes, air intake. I believe that's it. Anyways, doing the fan clutch now. So took our radiator brackets loose, fan shroud off, take all the 15 millimeters out that hold the inner fan shroud on, and you can see you can get to your nut then on your fan clutch. Just take your trusty old air hammer, give it a blast, breaks the nut loose, spin it off, raise the rear fan shroud out with the fan and the clutch, swap it out, put it back in. That's simple. So I'm gonna do that. We got the HFCM last, and then this thing should be good to go. All right, we're under the truck, under the driver's side, on the inside of the frame rail here. This is your HFCM. It's as simple as there's 3 13 millimeter nuts on the back side, on the outside of the frame here. You got push disconnects on these, and you got to use your fuel line disconnects on these. Undo the lines, undo your 2 electrical connections, put the new one on, hook the hoses up, bolt it up, you're good to go. All right, new one's on. Takes all of 10 minutes to do. We're gonna go fill it with coolant, and then we're ready to crank this thing up. All right, so this thing had straight water in it, had a lot of rust deposits in it. That's one reason that oil cooler was stopped up, had to be replaced. We did a radiator also. I flushed the system before and after the radiator. So I'm gonna do one more time a garden hose water when we crank it up, make sure everything's good with it. We'll drain all that out. We'll flush it with some distilled water, and then we'll do our final fill. So that's what we're doing right now. So I'm gonna prime that new pump because nothing but air in those fuel lines. Then we'll probably have to crank for just a second because of the oil well where the oil cooler is. Even though I pre-filled it, there's still air pockets and all that in there. We'll have to pump that oil off through that area of the motor there. So anyways, let me get busy doing that. We'll crank this up. All right, I primed the pump about 5 times now. Let it cycle every single time. We're gonna give it a crank now. Shouldn't take too much. Except for our batteries freaking suck in this truck that he brought with it. All right, battery charger's on. Let's try this again. You'll notice we haven't built low pressure oil yet. That's what we're struggling with. Just having to get that well all primed back up. Oh, come on, batteries. Jeez, this is ridiculous. All right, this is getting old. There we go. All right, so as y'all can tell from the video, this truck has just been an absolute train wreck. So new fuel pump, it started up for just a second. When I cut the camera, it ran for about 20 seconds. And it sounds exactly like it does when you run one of these out of fuel. So I let the batteries charge a minute or more, tried to crank it again. And I heard the fuel pump, and you heard it making that noise like it's just pulling air, like it's not getting fuel. It just kind of, I don't know, it's hard to describe the sound, but you can tell it's getting air in the pump. So got a can of diesel here. And I go to pump it in the tank, and what happens as soon as I put it in the filler neck? It comes all out on the ground because someone's dropped this tank. As you can see, we've got ratchet straps here. But the filler neck is not even hooked up, neither is the vent. So how much crap is in the tank? Why was the tank dropped? Did they replace the foot on the pickup? Because we're not too far above a quarter tank. We're running downhill a little bit because the front tires are down there where my drain is. So it's probably just enough. If it's at that, around that quarter tank range, is the sending unit working right? Anyways, I don't know. But I feel like we're just pulling air out of the tank and we're not really pulling fuel. So I was gonna first put 5 gallons in it if it ran fine. So yeah, we need to drop the tank. But now at this point, I'm thinking about just dropping the tank. What did I tell you? Freaking breaking into pieces. And there ain't hardly no fuel in here. So it ain't reading right neither. You can see the pieces down in there. So I think I have one of those on the shelf. Let me see if I can find it. And we'll get all that crap out of there and put it back in and put some diesel in it and then it will run correct. All right, new pickup foot is on. We got all of our pieces out that are sitting in the cup there so I can show the customer. And we're gonna put this together and crank her up. Runs a little bit better when it actually gets some diesel to it. Man, I got crap all over my face. This thing is nasty underneath too. So we're pumping some fuel into it still. It cranked right up, primed the pump twice, fired right up. All right guys, hope you enjoyed the video on revivaling and kind of fixing every single thing we could find wrong with this 6.0, because the project just kept going on and on. Seemed like kept finding more stuff wrong with it. And even now the brakes are dragging, and I got to try to find this customer's number because I've lost track of it because I'm done with the truck and I want to see if he wants me to fix the brakes. But everything's running great with it. We got it back on the road, and he bought it at auction, not running. So anyways, we got him a truck running. It's Automatic Garage. Y'all check us out at Facebook, Instagram, and Rumble. Go check out all of our other content here on the channel. A whole lot of Ford and Powerstroke stuff. We appreciate y'all watching. If this video helped you out or you just enjoyed watching it, please hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll holler at y'all later. Appreciate it.